Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to 3 Gear Studios' first Deco and Dice video. That is me. I am Deco and Dice. I make fake sweets accessories that I learned how to do from being in Japan, and also whimsical accessories and gamer theme accessories like these dice earrings. But on today's episode, I'm going to show you how to make a fake sweets macaroon charm like this. Starting off, the kind of clay you use is very important. I'm using an air dry polymer clay that I got from Michaels. And I'm just gonna open up the pack. It's not exactly like the kind of clay I was able to use in Japan that a lot of people use for making fake sweets, but it works fairly well, almost the same. You wanna make sure that when you put it away that you wrap it up very tight because it is air dry, so it can dry out very quickly. Make sure you wrap it really tight with the cellophane. And I'm just going to color the clay. I'm using, since this is a game store, I'm using miniature figure paint, but of course acrylic paints will work fine. Just put a little bit. I'm using this kind of paint because I find that if you color the clay first, even putting white into it, it'll dry less translucent. So I don't want it to look translucent because we're making macaroons. They need to have a really decent color. So I'm making some pink macaroons. I want it to be a pretty soft shade of pink, and I'm just gonna knead it in very well. Just needs to get a nice even shade, like you're kneading bread dough. It's basically the same kind of technique. I wouldn't use pastel chalks at this point just because I don't want to dry out my clay. I find that the chalk is good for lightly coloring on top. So now I'm just going to divide the clay and start with this half. We're gonna roll it out. And I'm not very good at measuring, so this is the part where you probably want to be very precise. I'm not that precise when I am cutting. The more precise you are, then the better your macaroons will look. I just don't really have the patience for that. So I roll them into a ball. And this is a medicine top that I found worked really well to flatten them out. And now I'm going to use a cookie cutter to clean it up so that it's a nice uniform shape. You can just pull off the excess and give it a little tap, and it should fall right out. So we're gonna have these be the tops and the bottoms. I'm gonna kind of eyeball it to match them up to make sure they are as close to each other in size as possible. You might want to put a little baby oil if it's really hard to kind of get out. As you can see, this one is being a bit tricky to get out of the cookie cutter. But yeah, a little bit of baby oil would really help things along with that. Okay, so next step. So try not to let your macaroons dry. You want to now use a tool like this or even a toothpick and just poke around the edges, because if you've seen macaroons, they have these little, I don't even know what they're called, but as they bake, they get these little hole marks on the side of them. So to replicate that, we really need to poke around the edges of each macaroon very well. If it does start getting dried out, you can switch over to a toothpick. That's why I'm only doing a few at a time, because it does tend to dry out this clay, and then it makes it really hard to really get in there and make that shape. There are macaroon molds out there that you can just press the clay straight into and pop out a very decent, realistic macaroon. I have used it before, and I probably will use one again, but I find just giving it the pokes on the side makes it look more realistic. So that's why I'm doing it this way. One thing I forgot to mention is that the clay is not sitting on regular paper. It is on parchment paper. It still can sometimes stick to it, but not as bad as if you were going to put them on regular paper. So even using a little bit of baby oil on the parchment to prevent it from sticking might be a good idea as well. And here are the macaroons that I've done in a few colors. Some came out better than others, I think. I might have to figure out another way to do it, because some of them had a little bit of an indent on the top that I don't like. Now you want to let them dry for at least 24 hours, and now it's time to decorate them. I'm going to coat them with a UV resin and cut out some cute butterfly shapes to put on the top of them. So this is a sheet of butterflies. I want to just match them up to see, which ones will fit the shape of the macaroon, because I don't want it, of course, to be too big. Of course, you can pretty much decorate the tops any way you like. So putting a coat of UV resin and putting the little butterflies on top, you can position them with a toothpick. So I did put UV resin on the tops and the bottoms, all of the macaroons. The ones that are left blank are the ones that are going to be the bottom. I did put them in the UV oven for about 5 minutes, and it dries very quickly. This is the second layer that I'm working on for the tops. I'm just positioning the butterflies, and also I decided to add some dried pressed flowers to make it look more whimsical. And lastly, I'm just going to put a Swarovski crystal to give it a little extra bling. So these are definitely not for eating. Into the Easy Bake Oven they go. Your UV lamp, for about 10 minutes or so. They really do not take long to dry at all. And the reason I really like using the butterflies is because they are clear plastic that will dry all the way through. And here are my macaroons. I really like how the UV resin just makes it look so glossy and shiny. In addition, it protects the clay so it won't get as damaged if you're outside or if it gets rained on. And that's one reason I really like to coat it with UV resin. You don't have to, and then your macaroon of course will come out more matte, and that's fine too, but you will have to be careful with it when if you're out in the elements. So one thing I forgot to show you was how to put it together once you've made both sides of your macaroon. So one thing I like to do is use the E6000 Crafter's Glue. It has a very strong hold and I can glue my two halves together. You can either just make it completely flat that way, or you can fill it with whipped cream. It's easy to make it with just plain white clay. Again, you can use the air dry polymer clay and push it through a like a fake whipped cream cap to get the cream shape, or like I like to use is the fake silicone whipped cream, which gives it a creamier look, and to me it looks a little bit more realistic to have silicone whipped cream. I just glue the bottom half and put the whipped cream in there, glue the top half, and close it together like a little sandwich. Before you do that, you want to make sure to insert something so that it can hang. I'm using these. Let's see if we can get they're little plastic, I don't know what they're called, but they have a little loop in the middle and they help it stick together. So you get this, glue it all together, and you're done. So really simple. What did you think of this tutorial? Please leave me a comment below, and if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, share, and subscribe to 3 Gear Studios YouTube channel. We'll be bringing you a lot more about the board game industry, crafts, arts, all kinds of things. So stay tuned, and I will put links in the description box below for our website and where you can find my jewelry. Thank you so much for watching. Special thanks to our wonderful supporters on Patreon. You can join our list of awesome by donating to 3 Gear Studios Patreon page. We'll put a link in the description box.